Greetings, ladies and gents. It's that time of year again, and you know what that means. It's time to talk about spooky shit. So today, I'm gonna be counting down my top 5 horror games of all time. But before that, let's go over a few rules. 1 per franchise. Because if I didn't do that, there'd be like almost nothing but Resident Evil games on here, and this isn't the top 5 Resident Evil games of all time, this is the top 5 horror games of all time. Also, I'm not gonna have The Last of Us on this list. Not because I don't like the game or because I think it's overrated or anything like that, I actually rather enjoy it. I just don't necessarily consider it a horror game. It has its moments, but all in all, it's more of a survival game than a horror game. But and also no RPG Maker games and no fan games. As good as some of those can be, that's stuff I really don't want to talk about right now. Let's just not open those floodgates. That said, anything that's been released on Steam or anything that has been released in physical form, especially anything I've played, is fair game. And keep in mind, if there is something you like that isn't on this list, keep in mind that this is my opinion, and chances are I haven't played that game. But, okay, with all that said, let's get into this. No more procrastination. Go. Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. Well, this is a great way to start off this list, isn't it? With a Five Nights at Freddy's game of all things. But just hear me out on this. This one is actually awesome. Like, the others were okay in my opinion, but, you know, really, like, Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole is a neat concept. I mean, how many things horror-related can you think of that involve, like, Chuck E. Cheese animatronics trying to kill you? Anything? Anything you can think of? Yeah, didn't think so. So, it's actually a really cool idea, but problem with the other games is you're just doing the same thing over and 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 over again. I don't think I said that enough times. But, well, okay. You do the same thing like 5 times in a row, and then there's like the extra. So all in all, you do it all like 6 or 7 times, but this game, sister location, goes against that formula and actually has variety. So, you know, it's still 5 nights, but every single night has you doing something completely different. And instead of staying in, like, one room, you actually get to, like, wander around and, like, see everything the place has to offer. And you're doing all this different stuff. Granted, some of it can be pretty annoying, but all in all, I'd say it's a pretty solid game. And also, this game is, you'd be surprised, this game is like filled with personality. It's not necessarily scary, but the atmosphere can get a bit tense, and yes, there are jump scares as usual, but to anyone who says that Five Nights at Freddy's is just jump scares, I mean, that's usually just a penalty for dying, so yeah. So it's not like, you know, it's just like a jump scare every 5 fucking seconds. You only get jump scared if you fuck up. So just don't fuck up. Easier said than done sometimes, I know, but yeah, what a fucking novel concept, right? Yeah, but This one though, this one's actually good. Like the voice acting is pretty solid too, and it's actually funny sometimes. Like there's actually funny dialogue. Like this game does not take itself seriously at all. Well, I mean, at least not always, and I fucking love that. Like any horror game that can like just break the mood by doing something funny and completely unexpected. Props to that. And like the voice acting is pretty good. Like Baby, for example, like the main animatronic in this game. I don't know what they were going for with it, but somehow her the voice somehow manages to be simultaneously comforting and unsettling at the same time. It's crazy, but yeah, yeah, every night has you doing something completely different. There's multiple endings depending on what you do, and there's even a throwback to the older games for longtime fans of the series. So whether you're a fan or a newcomer, the game has something for everyone. Like even if you don't like Five Nights at Freddy's, give this one a chance. You might actually be surprised. You know, it's not like absolutely amazing or anything. It's not groundbreaking, but it's a fun little distraction. I guess the same can be said for most of the games in this series, but this one's actually really cool, and I like it a lot. Like I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but yeah, it was good. Yeah, and so it's got funny dialogue. It's filled to the brim with personality. The jokes are great. Like we're talking fucking Undertale levels of humor, which I'm sure the very mention of Undertale is just like fucking word vomit to some people. Same goes for Five Nights at Freddy's, but hey, that's how it goes. Shit gets popular and people hate on it just because it's popular. But hey, as far as horror games go, at least Five Nights at Freddy's is better than all those fucking Slender Man games. Motherfucking trendy Slendy. Okay? You get that shit out of here. Motherfucking 8 pages. Fucking Slender Man with no goddamn face just standing there menacingly. No, get that shit out of here. I don't care about that. But the thing with Five Nights at Freddy's is the animatronics. The animatronics are actually really cool. I like them a lot. But yeah. That's all I gotta say about that. So moving on before I make a bigger fool out of myself. Franbow. Up next, we have Franbow, another indie title. And this one, unlike the previous one, is actually really cool and really unique and, well, I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's is pretty unique too, but I mean, after like a million of those, I can see why people got sick of it. But Franbow, this is just one little game, and anyone who hasn't played it definitely should. So basically, you're a little girl. This is a point-and-click adventure game, and it's basically like, the best I could describe it is like Clock Tower meets LSD Dream Simulator or whatever. Like some freaky fucking shit happens. And you like you take pills to like travel between like different realities, and you know it's never really established if it's just all in your head or if this is all just actually happening, but it's like one big acid trip. But yeah, basically, you're a little girl, and I'm not spoiling anything because this is all established in the very beginning. Basically, how the game starts is Franbow gets a cat, a black cat, for like Christmas or her birthday or something. I don't really remember, but all I know is she gets a cat, and she names him Mr. Midnight. Well, you know, she's in her room about to go to bed, you playing with Mr. Midnight, and suddenly she hears a sound coming from the other room. And all of a sudden, she sees both of her parents dead, just fucking like, just in, basically cut up into like a bunch of little bits. Like, there's pretty much nothing left of them. So yeah, that's a pretty fucked up start to a game. And, you know, she ends up getting locked in an insane asylum because, I mean, they probably assume that she did it, and honestly, it's kind of up in the air whether or not she did. But, so, you know, you're in this asylum, and eventually you try to escape the asylum, and how you do this is by taking these red pills that basically make you trip balls and see like just a bunch of fucked up shit. It's like a completely different reality. Everything's just completely fucked up. And so you escape the asylum by traveling between these two realities and solving puzzles. And eventually you come across like a bunch of mystical lands, like, you know, forests and stuff, and like Franbow has this imaginary friend, so that like helps you throughout your journey too. So it's really, really weird, but really, really awesome too. It's fucked up. So, you know, if you're not into like psychological mindfucks or games that touch upon like really heavy subjects, this is not the game for you. But if you're okay with shit like that and you just want a nice little creepy, weird, freaky as fuck point and click adventure game, go for it, man. I had a good time with it. That's all I can say, but yeah, moving on. The Evil Within. Alright, now we're getting into what someone might consider a real horror game. And, yeah. The Evil Within is not perfect and not without its flaws. Trust me, this game is far from perfect, but it's cool for what it is. Also, I've heard The Evil Within 2 is a lot better, but I have not played The Evil Within 2 yet. I really want to, but I haven't played The Evil Within 2 yet. I plan to do that rather soon. But for now, here's The Evil Within. Basically the best way I can describe The Evil Within, I'm not gonna bother describing the story really, because the story is like convoluted as fuck and really confusing. That's one of the most common complaints, is that the story is just incomprehensible. Like basically, you're a detective, you end up in a hospital, and everything just kind of goes downhill from there. That's about as good of a summary as you're gonna get from me. As for the gameplay and like the happenings in game, the best way I can really describe it is if you took Resident Evil and Silent Hill and put them in a blender. It's basically a combination of those two games. This game was supposed to be like basically a spiritual successor to classic Resident Evil, while Resident Evil was still in its like Michael Bay action game phase. This was supposed to like, you know, fill that void. It was supposed to be like a callback to like Resident Evil 4, which, yeah, it's a lot like Resident Evil 4, only, you know, not as good. And the game can be really cheap sometimes, and the game like surrounds you with enemies sometimes, and to top that off, you're not really given very much ammo to work with. Now, granted, this is the way survival horror games tend to work. They don't give you very much ammo, but in most cases, as long as you're careful, it's enough. And like, I'm so paranoid when I play horror games that if anything, I have too much ammo by the end of the game. Like, I'm that good at preserving shit. But The Evil Within, I was low on ammo more fucking times than I could count, and I was pretty much stuck just punching monsters in the face. Because that's all you can do, because you run out of ammo so fucking quickly, because it's so, like, few and far between. Like even on easy mode, the game just doesn't give you anything to work with at all. It's ridiculous, but all in all, I did still have a pretty good time with it. Again, it's not perfect, it's not great, but it is decent, and I did think that it had a lot of potential, and I was really hoping the game would get a sequel, and I'm really glad it did. And I've heard that the sequel improved upon pretty much everything The Evil Within did wrong, so I'm really looking forward to playing that. But as it is, The Evil Within, it's interesting. I liked it. You know, again, not perfect, but it was cool. There were definitely cool things about it, and all in all, I think the positives did outweigh the negatives, even if just barely. So, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but you know, it had its moments, and it especially got more interesting towards the end. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about that. Moving on. Resident Evil the Remake. Alright, moving on to Resident Evil. My second favorite horror franchise of all time. Used to be my first one till I played Silent Hill, and I realized that Silent Hill was a lot more interesting in my opinion, but the Resident Evil games are still pretty great, and you know, they pretty much started the whole survival horror biz. Well, I mean, like not really, because you know, there was like Sweet Home and Clock Tower and Alone in the Dark, but Resident Evil, it wasn't until Resident Evil came out that horror went like mainstream, especially in like the States. Because before it didn't really like take off, but Resident Evil came along and just completely turned that around. Now, the original Resident Evil, while it was good at the time, that game has aged horribly, and I would not recommend anyone play that unless they want to have a good laugh. That's about all that game has to offer these days. It's good for what it was, but these days, That is, of course, where the remake comes in. The remake is basically built completely from the ground up. It's not exactly like the original. There are significant changes, a lot of stuff added, puzzles are different. Yeah, and yeah, the voice acting is like significantly better because like one of the worst aspects of the original Resident Evil game was the fucking terrible voice acting and the terrible dialogue. It was funny, like it was so bad it was good. Like basically the room levels of terrible yet awesome at the same time, but the remake, it's still cheesy, but it's better. Like you can definitely tell that they put effort into it, like real legitimate effort. And I'm not saying that effort wasn't put into the original, but they really just overhauled the remake to make sure that it was like the most quality game they could make it. Like they did a really good job with it. And it's legitimately scary at times. Like fucking, like I'm not like generally scared by horror games. I'm pretty good when it comes to that, and like Resident Evil didn't necessarily scare me, but it did have me on edge at times, and that's good enough. If you can get somebody on edge, you're doing a good job. And two words: Lisa Trevor. That's all I gotta fucking say. You know, I'm not gonna like summarize the story because I feel like most people would know about it by now, but you know, it's a mansion. There's zombies, like, you know, whatever, all the Resident Evil stuff. I'm sure like a good 90% of people know that, so that's not really something I gotta get into, I don't think. But yeah, it's definitely one of the best horror games out there. And honestly, like any number of Resident Evil games could have ended up on this list. 4 is really good, 2 is really good, 7 is actually surprisingly good. But I gotta go with this one, because I think out of all of them, this one does horror the absolute best. And it also has the best monster variety, in my opinion. So it's got the best variety, it's got the best setting, it's got the best monsters, it's got the best characters. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Silent Hill 2. Of course I had to go with Silent Hill 2 as my number 1 pick. Now, honestly, it's a toss-up between 2 and 3. Like, both of those games are really good. Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 3, both fantastic games, and I love them both for different reasons. And, like, depending on what mood I was in, Silent Hill 3 could have easily ended up on this list in Silent Hill 2's place, but... And I do, to an extent, feel like Silent Hill 3 is better from a gameplay standpoint, which you'd think would be enough to give it the edge, but... And it's not that it even has a bad story either. It's just, it's not as impactful, you know? Silent Hill 2, on top of being, you know, an improvement over the first game and pretty solid in terms of gameplay, it has a fucking amazing story. Now, you know, it's not gonna affect everybody the same way, but there are just so many reasons that it impacted me personally. Like, I relate to Resident Evil 2's, Silent Hill 2's story on just so many fucking personal levels. Like, this game is... And I started playing this game at, like, a very dark point, at a very dark time in my life. Like, I was going through some fucked up shit. My mental state was just bad, dude. Like, I I cannot tell you what kind of shit was going through my head at the time that I played this game. And this game helped me through it. Like, this game helped me through it and actually made me feel better. Like, it was an emotional roller coaster for sure, and it got me emotional, but at the same time, it helped me. And that's incredible. Like, any game with a story that can help you through, you know, tough times and like really emotional points in your life and things where just everything seems hopeless and you're just like completely fucked beyond belief. Anything that can help with that is a winner in my book. There's nothing more I can really say. And there's not really too much I can say about this game without spoiling it. All I can say is that the story touches upon some pretty heavy subjects, and anyone who, you know, is easily offended by things or just doesn't like things that touch upon taboo subjects, stay as far away from this game as possible. But for those who, you know, wanna just emotional story with you know, complicated characters, complicated yet semi-relatable characters, and just like it's not the scariest game out there, but it does have its moments, and it is like I said, a really good story, and it, you know, just like the atmosphere of it too is, you know, everything's just spot on to me. And this game affected me on a very personal level, which is why I love it so much. And I meant to review this game a while ago, but I wasn't in the mood, and I wasn't sure if my words were gonna do it justice. I'm still not even sure if anything I said did this game justice. Nothing I say about this game can capture how I feel about it. And that is why it is my favorite horror game of all time. But with that said, I am gonna end this here. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, that's fine too. But either way, I will see you people later. Have fun.